two, three, funky.
What's up, guys? How we doing? Hope that everyone is doing okay. Welcome back to Fun with Dom, where everyone is welcome. I'm your host Dom, broadcasting from London as always. Today's guest in my podcast is my friend Dave. I hope that you will enjoy this new episode. Hi Dave, how are you? I hope that you are good.
I am good, thank you. And how are you?
Good. I'm good. Can you just tell us about yourself so people can know you better?
What do you mean people don't know me already?
Oh wow, that's my mistake. Well, a lot of people know you, but like for the new people that maybe don't know you,
For the new people, I'm Dave. I have been doing this job as a sound engineer for over 20 years now. It doesn't seem like that long, but it is. Worked with people like Amy Winehouse, 𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐤𝐿. For your Italian audience, I work with the bloody Beetroots.
There we go. The best name. Love them. They're really nice.
Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. And I've been so obviously been doing that. I write books, I teach, and I set up a clothing brand as well.
Yeah, we will talk about that. I've got a lot of questions about that. So how did you start in this business, Dave?
Well, I suppose very similar to a lot of people of my generation. There weren't really any colleges or universities to go to study going on tour. So I was playing in a band I was a bass player, and in my hometown of Southend-on-Sea. I then moved to. Sorry, I didn't move anywhere actually. That's a bit later on in the story. So I was at school playing in a band, and we were rehearsing a lot at a specific studio, Maple Studios in Southend, and they also had a PA hire company, and they ran the local venue and a few other bits and pieces like that. And so after months of bugging the guy who ran the place, he allowed me to sweep the floors and make the tea. So I started doing that and pushing boxes. It was really just a case of they were getting busier, and I kept on bugging. And then eventually he went, "Yeah, okay, yeah, fine. What are you doing this weekend?" And then that was the start.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's how I think a lot of people start in this business. It's always starting from the bottom of the things and going up. I started in the same way when I was 16. I mean, I started doing more DJ stuff and more party. But I started to work with a company, like as a business company, when I was 17. After that, I lost my dad. And I remember that my first job was literally in Italy. We do this kind of party in a small city. So every city does a party every like on the summer, every week or every 2 weeks. It's for the church sometimes. So I remember that I start doing just literally pushing box, but not box like as a fly case, box as a proper box with the stuff inside. And that was my beginning of everything. But yeah, I mean, that's how everyone starts. You say that you have got this brand company. It's something that started because you needed a side business, or just because you like the clothing brand?
You know what? It started off as a kind of as something that might be quite funny. So the idea originally was to just put like silly slogans. This was years ago, before people actually started putting silly sound slogans on T-shirts, and then because there wasn't really anything like that, and it came about from doing a I was doing a conference for Plaza, so I was coming doing a sort of keynote thing for them, and afterwards, I was talking to a load of people. You know, it's that kind of classic case. You do your thing, and you ask, anybody got any questions? Nope, brilliant. You understood everything that I said. Oh yeah, completely. And then you leave the stage, and then all the questions come. And so I go to the bar, obviously, and then there's quite a few other people there as well who were in my session, and they said they started asking some questions, and one of these questions was about like the internal diffraction of a speaker cone. It was just, and so it's an interesting question if you're really into the physics of speakers. So I answered that kinda. Because it's not it's not really a question that a sound engineer asks. I mean, it's like obviously these kids have been at college or uni and whatever, and they're trying to think of intelligent questions to say. And so we kind of talk about it, and as I'm talking about it, I can see all the eyes glaze over of everybody in front of me. Now, this could have been the most boring answer in the world ever. But I think what really became apparent was that the level of conversation went from being sort of basic understanding to quite in-depth audio physics. And then there was that like, oh, this is more than I can grasp, but I've asked the question. So I'm just going to nod along and agree with everything that he's saying. And then everybody else was doing the same thing. And it was at that kind of point I realized, oh, hang on a minute. This is quite interesting because you can most people like to seem like they're intelligent and maybe more intelligent than they actually are. So that would make a good T-shirt, and that was basically the concept, just to try and come up with clever things about sound, just to put on some T-shirts. But then, as I thought about it some more, I thought actually this might not be a bad idea, and then developed it and did some design work and just pushed the idea a little bit further, and it kind of just developed into an actual thing.
Wow.
So yeah.
So everything started from a physics question.
Basically, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Because the other thing was also that I really loved this kind of subtlety in intelligence. So you don't have to tell people that you're clever. You don't have to put a T-shirt on saying I'm a clever guy. You basically it was just a kind of way of being able to it was like an in-joke, a little bit like those Star Trek T-shirts. Somebody might be walking on the road with some Klingon written on the front of their T-shirt, and one in a million people might walk past you and go, "Oh, nice joke," and it was kind of that being about that kind of being a part of that club, being an in joke. So anyway, as I thought about it, it was like, well, let's tell the story of music, but through the technology that we all use every day. So, one of my first prints that I did was Edison's phonograph, because that was the first machine that could record and play back sound at the same time. So it was just trying to, think about fashion and sound in a very different way. Music and fashion have always gone hand in hand. So, and it's never about the music; it's always about the fashion. So it was really about trying to tell that story. And actually, since I've been doing that, just found some really interesting stories. Like I've got this graffiti print that I've done, which is like the AAA logo. But as kind of is a little bit like graffiti, and that came about from the idea of where graffiti started, and so thinking about, and this is really fascinating because graffiti, obviously being an Italian word,
Yeah.
you you know, it started off as in New York as graffiti, but it started in Berlin as street art.
Yeah.
And they started about the same time, and it all had to do with protesting. So in New York, they were protesting this crossrail, this railway link between two sides of the of New York. I think it was going across the Bronx or something like that, and they were protesting this because basically it was going through black neighborhoods, and so they started spraying on walls. And in Berlin, at about the same time, they were protesting the Berlin Wall, and it was people on the west who were spraying graffiti or street art on the walls of the buildings in Berlin to inspire people on the other side of the wall to keep going. So it's actually quite a really fascinating story, and I thought that's really interesting. And so I wrote a little blog post about that, and I made these, and I did some T-shirts and some hoodies and things like that. And I lived in Berlin for a few years, and you know, one of the things that I found most fascinating was like, how could you just wall up a city?
Wall.
You know, how can you just put a border in the middle of a city? I mean, it made as an Englishman from a very English part of the country. It made absolutely no sense to me.
No
and then
sense, yeah.
so I got when I got there, I got very interested in the history of the Berlin Wall, and you know, started to walk. I actually lived quite close to it in Friedrichshain. And it was just a fascinating thing. And then as I learned more about it and learning more about the Cold War and you know, all of these things that you've heard in history but never been never really understood, I suppose, on a first hand level, and to actually be there and think, this is the wall, this is interesting, and you learn about it that way. It was just fascinating.
I think
To me,
a lot
anyway.
of people. No. I think that a lot of people, especially young generation, just don't care about a lot of that stuff anymore. Unfortunately,
I don't know whether it's not caring about it. It's just I suppose it's just that being exposed to it.
Actually,
and you know, and we've you know, our generation has been relatively you know, well, I say relatively, we've been very lucky that you know, we haven't had to kind of live through anything like a period of time that hasn't been unsafe. You know, I mean, I grew up in mainly the 80s. I was born at the very beginning of the 80s, and so growing up in the 80s, you know, we had the IRA threat, and the kind of and the well, what was the ending of the Cold War. So you know, nuclear threats were, you know, possible, and then you get to the late 80s, early 90s. You know, the Berlin Wall comes down, and and everyone's celebrating. You know, the end of the Cold War. You're like, okay, well, I mean, I was a bit too young to really kind of understand that. And then, you know, then we had the IRA ceasefire a few years later, and that meant that, because I live very close to London, I wasn't really affected by any of the bombings myself, but it was always on your mind. You know, you're always seeing on the news, there was a bomb in a bin at Bank Station, and they had to close off the whole area. Now, a lot of my friends' parents used to work in London, so they were being affected. My parents, fortunately, didn't commute into London, but so there was that constant kind of threat, and ever since that point, there hasn't been, as far as I'm concerned, anyway, there hasn't really been that kind of real. You know, threat on the ground, and then we and then we get to was it 2002 with the
the attack,
yeah, no, with that. So, um, and then and then you see it's just a different set of people we're blaming, and
Yeah.
and it's like, oh fuck's sake, you know, um, and I for me, I don't know, it's there's this just big blame culture, and what's happened, I think, for the younger generation is that they've most of them are pretty turned off by it.
Yep.
You know, they turn
Yep.
to
Yep. Yep. Yep.
they turn to YouTube. I mean,
Yep.
before we had to, you know, all the television that we watched was curated, and there were four channels. Channel 5 didn't come on till a bit later on, but so there was four channels, and everything that we watched, all that we were exposed to in the media, was curated. Whereas these days, you know, the popular the television channels obviously curate their own content, and they make some really good content, but the kids aren't bothered. My son, who's 12, I don't think he's ever watched BBC in his life. You know, oh, Strictly Come Dancing, he used to like that when he was younger,
Okay.
but that was it. He's not really interested in anything else, and then he just watches all this YouTube stuff.
YouTube stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
And they I mean, he's made me watch some of it, and my god, it's fucking awful. There was this one thing where this guy was running around just screaming for half an hour. I had no idea what he was trying to do, and Finn found it hilarious. I was like, what? I don't get it. Yeah.
You find like strange stuff on YouTube, literally strange stuff, and there is a lot of views. So you say, really, people watch this stuff? Like it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Oh yeah, but also it's amazing what you can learn as well.
Oh well, yeah. Talking about new generation, right? I want to ask you, what advice would you give to someone that want to start in the music business, or as a crew member, as a technician? That's not easy, isn't it?
well, like right now, get a job at Sainsbury's.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I've applied for Deliveroo and Uber Eats, so I agree. I agree. Yeah.
Well, I just heard this thing about the supermarkets now opening up more delivery slots, because I have not been able to get a delivery slot for 4 weeks. I got one at the very beginning of this whole thing, and I haven't been able to get one since. So, you know, anyway, advice for people trying to start in this industry. I mean, the thing is, learn as much as you can.
Yeah.
Never assume you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that really grinds my gears, is that you can be having a conversation with someone, and they'll be like, "Oh, did you hear that mix? It was awful." You know, always complaining about what someone else is doing. Yeah. But everybody complains about what everybody else is doing, and you know
always,
and how they could do it better. And you're like, well, everybody can't be wrong, and everybody can't be right. Yep. So, you know, it's so opinionated. And the thing is, with sound, because it's invisible, you can't see it. People kind of just assume some of the basic fundamentals of it. Whereas actually, you know, if you take some time and listen to what somebody else is saying, and give it some critical thinking, how and why and when and where, those kind of questions, then it leads you to some really interesting places. I mean, there are some things that I've done which were really interesting, but because it's not something that is a very popular way of doing things, it's really tricky to do them, because the console manufacturers only make consoles the way they think they should be made. So so a pan pot, for example, will only ever do level, left and right, whereas if you delayed it instead, so you had a delay going from left to right or right to left, so the amount of delay differs between the left and right, then you still get the same perception of a stereo field. But if you're doing a big room, you don't have a level difference between the people on the very left and the very right.
Right. Yeah.
So there's little things like that. Now you can do it, but it takes a lot more processing and outboard equipment and all sorts of other things like that, or a different workflow. And that's one of the things that really fascinated me about the sound world, was that there are so many untapped sources of information and so many connections that haven't quite made it through to kind of popular the popular zeitgeist, I suppose. And it's really fascinating. I mean, I suppose that the classic one really is the difference between digital and analog. The people are still having that same conversation.
Oh my god!
And then the other one was like, line array and point source. And it's like, I tell you what, fundamentally, it's all crap. Because because you're compromising somewhere. It's where you compromise and how you compromise is the most important thing, and you're there to work out the path of least resistance. But what we classically do is, instead of making it easier for sound to pass from the microphone to the speaker, we put more and more and more and more processing in the way, and then
oh my god, I mean,
it happens all the time.
I always try to say when I talk with someone, because I get a lot when I do this video on YouTube nowadays, I get a lot of people asking me, "Oh, you are so basic, you don't use all these plugins," because they see that kind of like big sound engineer using 10 plugins on one vocal and 10 plugins on a drum group and all that kind of stuff. I am quite basic. I don't like to do a lot of stuff, just because I think the less is better. That's my thought. Coming especially from analog way to work, I don't like to have a lot of stuff. All my stuff at the beginning was just done with a Yamaha desk, a normal one, and couple of compression and gate, and that was my job, and delay and reverb. That was everything. But nowadays, as you say, people want to learn more, and people try to emulate other people. And you know what I always say? You don't need to emulate someone, because as a sound engineer, you are like an artist. You need to give your sign to that mix. If you do the same things that another sound guy does, that mix will sound the same of the other guy. It's not the same things. It's not your mix. You know what I mean? So, and for me, when I say, I want to be like that guy, I want to do the same mix that guy does, I say, fuck that. I don't want to do that. I want to do my mix. I mean, that's my way. As someone can say, oh, maybe you don't know anything, but that's the way. After 15 years on the business, that's the way that I want to do it, and how I do. And maybe this is the things that doesn't allow me to work as much as I want in this business, because now I give you this question about myself, because maybe you can teach more me and other people. I've been working in this business, for quite a long time. I moved in UK 6 years ago, and I started from the beginning, and I was lucky enough to work more on the corporate side, and I've got quite a big client base, but it's been quite difficult for me to work as a touring engineer, because I don't know. And I can tell you, Dave, I've been chasing people for the past 4 years and saying, look, I can literally show you what I can do, and I can show you that I'm good at what I do. But everyone was telling me the same things, and the answer was the following: I'm really sorry, you didn't work with no one big, and I can do anything. I'm really sorry, I don't know you, I can call you. I'm really sorry, you don't know no one, or we don't have got no one in common that I can ask what you have done, so I can call you. So my question is always the same. What do you think that was my mistake? Because I've been doing front of house, tour manager, sound engineer, monitor engineer, production manager, and I should have done just one thing. So just say sound, and that's it.
I don't think you've done anything wrong.
Okay, well, yeah.
And actually, I think it fundamentally comes down to the point that I think a lot of people either get jobs because they're cheap or they have a name, and if you're anywhere in between, it it doesn't.
Yeah, that was my problem.
It doesn't work. I mean,
Yeah.
my CV isn't a bad CV, and I don't get jobs either because I haven't worked with that particular management company before, or the band are don't want to pay that much, and it's like, well, and the problem is that they can always go somewhere else, and they can always find someone else to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lost out to so many gigs for students. Now, I say students. That's not fair. They're not students. They've studied sound.
Yeah.
And I've taught them as well. So that's it's not a problem. So they've studied and they've passed their degrees and they've come out and they're trying to get work in the real world. And I've lost out on gigs to these people. Now that's absolutely fine. I haven't got a problem with that. But it's now, I suppose, as an industry, it's now more accessible than it's ever been before. And what you've got is people of my age and older who have been touring for 20, 30 years who don't really want to tour. And so what can they do? Oh, they can go and teach it. Yeah. And so they go and do that. But now what's happened is like education has now been flooded is probably the wrong word, but it now has a lot of teachers that used to be in the music industry. And then what's happening there is, and then that's driving, I mean, it's all market driven. So, when there's a demand there, it's great. But when there's too many people, then it starts driving the price down. I mean, I used to work, I'm not going to say where I used to work. But what happened over the years that I was teaching was that the wages just kept coming down and down and down. Everything else was going up in cost, apart from me. So my value to the place that I was working was less than it was the year before. Doesn't really. I mean, I'm not driven by money by any, but it helps paying the bills. And this is the thing this is the thing about the music industry, is that it's all built on a wing and a prayer. Yeah. Someone will do it for free, or someone will do it for this, that, the other. And that doesn't pay the mortgage. At the end of the day,
doesn't pay the food, the main things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, being an Italian, that is more important than the mortgage.
Well, hang on, I need to say that because a lot of people think so. I don't drink coffee, right? I don't eat pasta. The only things that Italian I eat is pizza. For all the rest, I'm literally the worst Italian guy that you can make in your life. And funny fact, I like to drink tea. So it's literally a kind of a fake Italian. But I mean, you know what I always say? I mean, it's something that I'm not proud to say, but I don't like my country for different reasons. And one of the main reason is I don't know if you know, but I was owner of a company, a sound-alike company, for 6 years back in Italy. And I started this company when I was 20, and I invest quite a lot of money, around 300,000 euro. Had the proper line array or digital desk, a truck. That was working quite a lot, like killing. No, I won't say killing myself, but I was working. I was giving job to another 3 guys working with me. But unfortunately, as my country doesn't want to help young generation to do things better, but they try to kill everyone. I start to lose money. A lot of my client didn't pay me. I end up to have quite a lot of debts, and I close everything. I decide to go on a ship cruise. Work for 2 years, 2 years on a ship cruise as a sound engineer in the theater. Make all my money back and pay my debts. And during that time, I was thinking, what I need to do about my life. And there is this guy that is one of my best friend. Is like a brother for me, Davide. I think that you know Davide Lombardi. And,
I know. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Davide was my system tech on Amy
Oh,
Winehouse.
yeah. So Davide is my brother. He's my best friend. He's everything for me. He's one of the person that I've got in my life. And he was at that time. I think there was Actually, I have got that article saved on my house, print in my house. As he did this interview with the Sound and Light. There's an Italian press about all sound and these kind of things that the music industry, and he was talking about his experience in UK, and that he was working as a PMN for Amy Winehouse and all that kind of things. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna try to do what this guy have done, and that's how I met him. Sending him an email and said, look, I would like to do this, and but I did everything. I moved in UK, but the things was we became really friends in all that years, and I became really friends with this brother because their brothers helped me to buy stuff for my company back in Italy. I told him, look, I'm gonna do this by myself, so I don't want that you introduce me to anyone or you help me to do anything, because I am that kind of person. I don't like to receive any help. It's just me. That's the way that I work. I like to help people, but I don't like to receive anything. And it's been our relation about work. So I go to see his concert. It introduced to myself to people as a friend, but I don't say I do this anymore, because it's the way that I want. If I need to become someone, I want to do by myself. I don't want help to no one, because a lot of people think when I say, oh, I'm friends of David, they say, oh well, he helped you. No, he didn't help me, because as you can see, I don't work with any big artist. But yeah, he's been a big inspiration for me. And when I move in this country, Dave, I receive all the love from the people that lives in here, and I will be grateful for the rest of my life to this country and the people that I've met. And I am applying for my passport as well now, so I'm studying all the book to apply for my British passport. And when I say, I get goosebumps, because the people, what these people of this country give to me is something that my country didn't give him in 20 years that I was back in Italy. I've met amazing people, literally amazing people that they didn't know me, and they give me job, and I show them that I was worth it, and they kept me for years and years and years. And there is still people that does that, friend, and I can say I've got more friends in here than in Italy. And so I will be always grateful for to this place and the people that lives in here. And when people ask me, oh, you will never come back in Italy, I always say no. And imagine that I've got a house in Italy. I own a house in Italy. When I'm here, I pay rent, and I can't sell the house in Italy because there is no market at the moment. It's so difficult. So that's why I say I am a fake Italian, because I feel more British than ever. And look, when I will get my passport, the first things I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tattoo on the back of my shirt there are roses, the red rose, and because it's part of my life now, and this is my home. For me, this is my home. Italy is a second place, but this is my home. I've got my family, I've got my mom and my brother, but this place is my home now. Is anything that happened to me in my life is just because this place and the people that live in here. So, but yeah.
Well, that's very nice to hear.
Yeah.
You know, you hear a lot of horror stories sometimes about migrants and some of the reaction they have from some of my fellow countrymen, which is horrifying. But likewise, you know, obviously I've toured all over the place, and one of the things that I've really been has opened my eyes up is that generally people all over the world are actually good people, and unfortunately we see the world through a prism of either politics or media. So when you say, "Oh, let's go to Italy," you think uh, uh, Venice and canals and pasta, pizza, and mafia and corruption. That's that's Italy in a nutshell, isn't it? But actually, when you go there, you realise, depending where you are, depends how lazy the people are. So the further south you go, the more lazier they become. Traffic lights become a suggestion. Especially
especially in Naples. I don't know if you ever been in Naples. So that's where I'm from.
Obviously, right? The motorway that goes around Naples. It's like this 2-lane motorway that goes. So obviously, Naples is on the coast, so it doesn't go all the way around it. It just goes around the it was the east side, isn't it? It goes all the way around.
𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐤 we call it. But anyway, go ahead.
So I'm going from the south side of the city to the north side of the city for a conference. So we jump in a taxi. The taxi gets on the motorway. He's in the middle lane. Now there's only 2 lanes. So like the white line in the middle separating the 2 lanes is in the middle of the car, and he's just tooting his horn as he's going, and the cars are parting. It was like fucking Moses, but it was just like hammering it down around this motorway, just tooting his horn, and people would just move into either side of like the motorway so you could get through the middle. I'm like, what is going on? This is mental. Absolutely mental. And then traffic lights go red, and that doesn't matter unless there's a member of the clergy who's trying to cross the road. Then everything stops. It's a very crazy place, but then equally fascinating. This is the culture, and I think the first time I had limoncello, fuck me.
Oh wow, yeah. You like it? I'm gonna, if I remember, I'm gonna bring when I come back. I mean, I always bring stuff for people, but I didn't know that you like limoncello. I brought a bottle for Billy, and he loves it. He loves it.
Oh yeah. Well, nice, I mean, I got absolutely hammered on that because you're like, oh, this is like it's a very unique taste. You're like, oh, this is brilliant. It reminded me a little bit of these lemon ice creams that I used to get. When I was a youngster. So in Southend, we have Rossi's ice cream, and all along the seafront there used to be these tiny little kiosks with like it was a pump ice cream thing. So you have a cone, they pump the ice cream out. So they had the vanilla and they had lemon, which was their other flavour, and the lemon was exactly the same kind of taste as limoncello. And you're like, that it was instantly transported right back to being 5 years old with my great grandmother on Southend seafront. Apart from the fact that it's slightly sweeter, I say slightly sweeter, quite a lot sweeter.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah,
and there's a lot more alcohol in it.
Yeah. I've got a family member that does a proper one, and man, it's so strong. Literally, I don't drink alcohol, but you need to drink limoncello when you're with the family. There is no way that you can't. It's so strong. Literally, yeah.
The other one is grappa. Oh,
yeah.
Because the Bob from the bloody Beetroots is from Bassano.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, and so for Christmas every year we get a bottle of really nice grappa, and oh fuck me, that stuff is strong.
Yeah, it's strong. Yeah.
But then when I was there, it was quite a while ago now. They were saying, "Oh no, you don't drink it neat. Put it in the espresso. Have your espresso.
Yeah, that's correct.
Then pop it in there, and you're like, oh, I can drink this now."
Yeah. So what we do also is coffee with sambuca. So it's another kind of alcohol thing. So we put the sambuca inside the coffee, and they get a strong taste. But it needs to be proper espresso, like a proper shot, not like the one that they do here, like a proper one done with the machine, because
Yeah.
it's how the taste is done.
See, I never realised Sambuca was Italian.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Until literally Friday, I found that out.
Wow. Okay.
I was doing a family quiz online on over the internet, as we all are doing now, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And one of the questions, it was like, where does this alcohol come from? And Sambuca, and I was like, oh, that's a good question. Someone said Greece, and I was like, oh, because that would have been my first choice. So I said Turkey, and then no, Italy, and I was amazed, actually.
Yeah. There is also different kind of things like red sambuca, black sambuca. But anyway, yeah, it's an Italian thing. Yeah,
and now
we call liquore, but yeah. Now you say about the quiz that you have done with the family in the last couple of days. I have got a question, but it's not easy to answer sometimes. So, as you have got children, as you say, how do you deal with family? Especially if you go on tour for like 3 months, 4 months. It's been difficult during all of this year, or there's a compromise?
Mate, you wouldn't believe how difficult it is. I mean, so my situation is probably tougher than most. Now, and so 10 years ago, I was doing a lot of tours. I was working with a lot of quite well-known bands, and over the last 5 or 6 years, I haven't done as much. And the reason for that, and actually this coincided with starting a clothing brand, was that my son came to live with me. So my son's mum and myself split up when he was 1. So he's never known us to be living together, but he was living with her, and then due to medical reasons, he ended up coming to live with me. So that meant that I couldn't go on tour as much, and it was really tricky. It was really tough, and I was living in a different place. So I had to change my life completely, really, and I had to think about him. So I had to think about the tours that I was taking. Now I've got my mum. So I live in Harrogate, which is in North Yorkshire. Yeah. So, but my parents still live in Southend, which is about 250 miles away.
Yeah.
So it's not really easy for them to come up. But Finn's mum's mum, so his granny, helps out a lot. She comes and moves into my apartment when I go on tour. But then also I can't be away for too long. So it really does take its toll. So I did a tour with 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐞 a couple of years ago, and that was kind of the last proper tour that I did. And I got back from that, and it was like 7 months, and I've been away for 7 months, and like just a load of stuff had happened at home. And I'm trying to parent from Santiago, which isn't necessarily an easy thing to do. So I kind of made the decision to just come off the road after that, just to restock, look after the family, because Finn was moving from primary school into secondary school, so it was a big year for him. So I got home and kind of bummed around for a little bit, worked a little bit on the clothing brand, but wasn't really didn't really know what to do with it. I had this thing, and it just looked like everything else that other people were doing, and I couldn't really make it work. I didn't. And a friend of mine was opening up a furniture store here in town. So I said, "Oh, give us a job. Never be afraid to go and do anything." and so she was like, well, you haven't really got any experience in retail or anything like that. I said, well, no, I don't. And you know what? I want to learn because I'm trying to start this clothing brand, but I've never had to sell anything. I can barely sell myself. The phone. I'm fortunate that where my phone rings and there's a job at the end of it. I don't have to spend hours and hours and hours trying to find a job. So eventually she said, yeah, all right. There's a part-time job there if you want it. So part-time was perfect. It meant I could just do, a few hours every day, and then I could take Finn to school. I could come back to work, and then I could go and pick him up from school. It was great. And actually, what happened while I was doing that, I was learning a lot about customer service and learning a lot about how the retail world works. And so, and then reflecting back on my life, and what I'm trying to do. Now, I can't work in a shop forever. It just doesn't pay the bills. Part-time doesn't pay the bills at all. So I've got a few other bits and pieces on the go. I mean, one of my criteria was I'm not going to chase any work. If work comes to me, I'll see if I can make it work. Unfortunately, I've had a few things: the bloody Beetroots, 𝐜𝐸𝐤𝐤, 𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐤𝐤 again. I've got some bits and pieces coming up, had some bits and pieces coming up, and 𝐦𝐨𝐬𝐤 as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So all of that's kind of going on last year. And it just worked out. It was really nice. I was working in the shop one day, and then I was off. I was Tottenham Hotspur as well. I was doing the sound for the for the stadium for there. So that was really interesting. And so it all life all of a sudden was nicely balanced, and I wasn't stressed. I wasn't earning loads of money. I was just earning enough to live, but it was nicely balanced for the first time in years. And I was like, this is great. And actually, as a result of having that kind of headspace to think about what I want to do and the clothing and stuff like that, that I've started to turn the clothing brand into a record label.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I've delved into a lot of that. So what I'm trying to do now is, and this is why actually, if you go to the website at the moment, it's got soon to be relaunched.
I'm gonna link the website on the description of this podcast so people can check it out.
Yeah. And actually, we're going to be relaunching the website. I'm hoping it's going to be the 9th of May, and we're going to be doing a virtual launch party.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I've got DJs, I've got bartenders, I've got. So the idea is that I've got these bartenders who are going to show you how to make a cocktail at home in your kitchen.
Wow.
So as the music's playing, you can mix your own White Russian or whatever. They can show you how to do it all. So that's the plan. And I've got a VJ as well, so we've got visuals and stuff going on. So I wanted to try and make it a bit more like a kind of a club in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So head over to the website and sign up for the notification on that. Really. So that'd be fun. So the idea is that when it won't happen straight away, but I've got a couple of artists that I'm working with. So we're going to be releasing their music through T-shirts and things like that, rather than just on as a stream or things like that. So it becomes a bit more. Basically, the idea is that it puts more money into the artist's pockets. So it means that
That's
they can
good.
create that they then have the money to create more music. They also have more money to pay for we have more money for paying to go on tour and all these other things like that. And then hopefully we'll be able to employ sound engineers and lighting engineers and everybody else.
Amazing. Yeah.
So we can take it all. And yeah, so I mean, the business plan is quite a bit bigger than that. But in a nutshell, I have to work on my elevator pitch. But, it's but that's the plan. That's what we're that's what we're doing.
So you answered my last question I was asking to you. That was where you see yourself in the next 2 or 3 years. So that's the plan for the future. That's your plan for the future now, going with this like company, starting as a shirt company, as a brand, like clothing company, now going more to help artists to put the music out through their merch. Let's say in this way. If
yeah, I mean, you say putting music out through their merch. That's not quite right. So
okay,
we're a clothing brand.
Yep.
And so and approaching this from a fashion viewpoint, it means that we're putting our clothing into retail outlets.
Cool.
And through some of the technology that I've been developing over the last 6 months or so, it means that I can sell a T-shirt to say ASOS, for example, and you can buy that T-shirt through ASOS, and when you get that T-shirt, you can then download the music.
Off right.
The T-shirt.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see now. Right.
Okay. So it means that if you're one of my artists, say Cynicism, who we've got on the brand. We can sell his T-shirts directly into clothing outlets, and so you can buy that T-shirt from a clothing outlet, and then you can download that music directly from the T-shirt.
Wow. Okay, so that's nice. So they buy a piece of the clothing, and they get a track as well, like a song. Well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So literally, the music is in the threads of the T-shirt.
Wow. Okay. That's nice. Okay. I'm looking forward to it because that's nice. Okay.
It's taken a while to get there. But yeah, it feels like it's finally going in the right place. And yeah, it's been a lot of hard work. And now I'm getting into the bit that I really don't know much about, which is the marketing.
Yeah, that's something that is quite. I mean, I've done a couple of training back in the past because, as you know, I've been always done these things with Instagram, Facebook, and all my things, YouTube, times back. Nowadays, it's like every month something is changing, like TikTok and after Instagram, TikTok, and after more people is not using Facebook, but a lot of people is using more Instagram and more TikTok. So it's always like a change every day. So you don't know where you want to market people, especially talking about fashion. It's not something that I say, people are just using Instagram. No, because fashion is nowadays also on TikTok. Because I see people showing brand and doing promotion of brand on TikTok as well. So it's
and the thing is, until you start getting into it and getting the data together, you don't know where best to spend your money. I mean, TikTok's a really interesting one at the moment. We're just about to invest in a TikTok campaign.
Oh, nice.
So we'll see how that goes. I mean, it's going to be we lose a load of money or we don't.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I think that I see the future for the last. I don't want to say year because I think there's too much, but the last 7, 8 months, 6 months is on TikTok. As the situation is right now, I see TikTok as one of the platform that is doing really, really well. Facebook, Instagram is become more saturated. There is a lot of people, and people don't know where to look at.
Especially at the moment, advertising on Facebook is really expensive. So yeah, I mean, I've just been setting up all some stuff for Facebook, but it's all like minimum spend and just re-putting the brand name in people's minds.
Yeah, I'm selling this online course now, and I'm using a bit of Facebook, but it's not about sound, so it's not. It's not my best thing. So it's about be a good freelancer. So I've got all my experience in the last 6 years put in 3 hours of training. So from how you write your CV, how you sell yourself to company, how you organize your financial, so how do you divide your money, how you invest your money, how I was able to stay for 6 months without using just my money that I've saved and all that kind of thing. So it's more about my help freelancer to do a good job. But yeah, because I had a lot of people asking me how I manage my finance, because I always talk to people that I do different investing, from I don't know, NISA account to trading stock and a small share and other stuff. So I like to diversify my investments. So yeah, but trying to do something to keep myself busy. But yeah,
that's important.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are doing like training for sound and lights. I said, I need to do something different and something that I know. And also I have got Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that's the thing, especially at the moment. I mean, how many more podcasts, how many more training sessions? Can somebody say, it's crazy. Come and check it? You're like, okay,
yeah, it's crazy. Cool, Dave. I want to just say thank you so much for this amazing chat. As you see, I don't like to talk about sound and other stuff a lot. I like to chat with people as a friend, because, as I say, there is a lot of stuff out there that is talking about that kind of thing. So I want to just share the experience that people have that maybe can be useful for other people that work in this business. And sometimes there's a lot of people that struggle with the basic things. So it's good that we can share our opinion and our story so people can learn.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you once again for listening, guys. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube to listen more episodes. And remember, be positive. Life is fun.